when you think that this fucking guy cannot say or do anything more stupid than he's already done, or at least he can't do anything more often than he's already done it in one weekend, think of what President Fuckknuckle has done. He has made people dislike the national anthem. He has ruined football for America. He has tweeted a declaration of war to a nut with nuclear weapons. And meanwhile, he has ignored part of the United States of America that is in basically deep fucking shit, and stood by while his jackbooted thugs working for his administration physically carted out handicapped and limbless protesters at the Capitol as the Republicans were going to. They tried their best. They wanted to do it. But thanks to just a couple of them with a little bit of backbone and fucking intelligence, they didn't do it. Trying to take away the health care from the limbless, handicapped people that they were currently carting out physically, bodily from the Capitol as they were trying to protest. Where do we get started? And also, and by the way, Trump, it was recently revealed that in an interview with Howard Stern, he had a great idea on how to stop hijacking. This was just a year or two ago. Sleeping gas on the airplane when they're getting hijacked. The button just push. The captain pushes a button, right? And you've seen it in the James Bond movies, and also James Coburn did a wonderful job in Iron Man Flint. You push the button, the sleeping gas comes out, and everybody, the passengers, the cabin attendants, the hijackers in question, everybody goes to sleep, and then the captains, the pilots just land the plane, and they just cart them all off. That was his fucking suggestion, ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
If you don't think that's a good idea, then obviously you support the terrorists.
Well, the terrorists have won.
I'm never surprised by the stupidity or speed of stupidity that comes out of Donald Trump. You began by saying, he can't do, you wouldn't think he could do anything stupider again. No, I absolutely believe, I never think we're at the end. It always happens over and over and over again.
And by the way, here is my feeling on the America love it or leave it crowd. Besides the fact that you're a bunch of fucking morons, have you ever noticed the goddamn people that are the most patriotic are also the people that are the fucking stupidest and have the fewest teeth that are out there at the fucking Trump rallies and the skinhead rallies? They're patriotic, so therefore they're supporting the Nazis that we hit and fight to end World War II. It's perfect logic. But the patriotic bunch, the America love it or leave it crowd, I love Castle Cornette. I love living here. I wouldn't live anywhere else in the world if I had a choice. I do have some choice. I don't want to live anywhere else in the world. I love it. Right here in this house, in this city, in this state, in this country, etc. Now, if my electricity went off and I didn't have any air conditioning, it was 90 degrees and I couldn't see because it was dark and I couldn't cook, and my plumbing didn't work and I couldn't flush the toilet and I couldn't get any water or whatever, then I wouldn't love it. But would I leave it? No. I'd call the fucking plumber, and I'd call the electrician, and I'd fix it, morons. You don't have to love it. You don't have to leave it. You can love it and want to fix it so that you love it more. And that's exactly where we are at, because America's like the UCLA basketball program under John Wooden, or maybe the Boston Celtics dynasty, or whatever, or Bruno in the Garden. We got used to for so long. We were the greatest. We were the best. We had to save the world from the Nazis. We were the best in technology. We were the leaders of the free world. That's how the president got to be called that. Because everybody looked to us to be in the biggest economy and the most powerful nation and blah, 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 blah. And all of the fans of the dynasty got used to that. And then all of a sudden, it's not that way anymore. Now you think I'm giving Donald Trump's campaign speech, we got to make America great again. No, you dumb fucks. The people that voted for Donald Trump and Donald Trump's ideas are the ideas of the people who control Donald Trump and who bought and paid for Donald Trump to be in the White House, a fucking real estate fraud and a failed fucking celebrity TV con man. They want to make America great again. They're the reason why America is not great now, is no longer great to begin with. When you identify this, we are not the greatest country in the world when we are the only civilized country in the world that doesn't guarantee health care as a right instead of a privilege. And when Obama, who tried to give us something of some health care despite all obstacles and arguments put in his path, and we end up getting a half-assed bunch of shit because it should be single-payer, government-run health care like every other country in the world, but we're the only ones who know how to do it right. It's because the pharmaceutical companies and the insurance companies control the government because they control enough of the Republicans who control the government, et cetera, and the billionaires. But the ideas that Donald Trump has got elected on are the reasons why that the United States is not so great anymore. No health care. Pulled out of the climate accord, so we're not only poisoning our atmosphere, but we're ruining everybody else's. Fucking these ridiculous, it's not regulations that deprive businesses of chance to fucking prosper. It's nobody having any fucking money except the billionaires that just give it to each other. It's constant and endless. We had a blithering, stuttering buffoon like George Bush in the White House who promptly crashed the global economy and got us into one war will never be over. Like a Dusty Rhodes and Ole Anderson angle, it'll never be over. Under false pretenses, bombing the wrong people, had a bunch of people team up with us. The French look smarter than they used to. They got a lot of heat there, but now they look smart. Because Bush and the Republican administration suckered every other politician in the world practically into following along with this fucking fiasco. And plus, he was just a dimwit. So finally, we get rid of him, and we look like idiots to the world, and we elect Obama. And if you will look at the research and look at the surveys, we have never looked better to the rest of the world than we did when we elected Obama, because they don't understand the black and white thing. They were just thinking, okay, finally they actually got a guy who knows what he's doing. And he's smart, and he knows how this shit works, and he's reasonable, and he's well-spoken, and he's gonna do a lot of good things, which he did. And just when we kind of got some of the heat off of us from George Bush, fucking Eb the farmhand being the president, then we get this fucking guy. And now everybody in the world, it's worse. They think the Americans cannot get their shit straight to save their lives, and that's exactly what it would do. It would save all of our fucking lives. Everybody in the world, what do you think all those world leaders, those politicians who have had experience in world geopolitical affairs for years and decades think when the Trump family comes to the G8 or one of these big, it's like fucking putting the Clampett family in. Where's Granny's wheelbarrow so they can fucking withdraw their money from the Commerce Bank? Miss Jane ought to be driving them around. We look like idiots. He has, once again, he's done damage to the climate. Speaking of climate damage, Puerto Rico, that is ours, you know, Donald. It's not part of Mexico that broke off and drifted. We own that shit. We bought it. We have to pay for it. We have to help them. You're worried about the National Football League because even now the football players and even the owners who are billionaires and supposed to be your boys, they're making you look bad because they're telling people what a piece of shit you are. And you're not worried about Puerto Rico not having electricity for months and probably going to descend into chaos and a mass exodus to the mainland because they are American citizens. You can't keep them out, you dipshit. So instead of worried about Puerto Rico, he's worried about the football players. We look like idiots in front of the world. We have no health care, and it's getting my health care plan for the second time in 5 years. Just got ixnayed. Basically, they've sent me a message saying they're not going to carry it at the end of the year. I got to find a new one. So if you're poor enough, if you're so poor that you eat dog food at least one meal a day in this country, then you can get free health care now, but they tried to take that away, but they narrowly failed. But if you don't qualify as being poor, then mine and Stacy's was $12,000 a year for what they just discontinued. So I don't know what I'm going to be paying. And then, or you can go without it and go bankrupt because, you know, the doctors will charge you $479,000 to stick their finger up your ass. That's the way it works around here. And the race relations have never been worse because fucking there's very fine people involved with the Nazis and the skinheads now. We found that out from President Pigfucker. Race relations have never been worse. The only reason the economy is still going along merrily is because the billionaires who actually know how the economy works know that Trump has not done anything to fuck with it and ain't going to do anything to fuck with it until he gets us in a nuclear war. And then they'll figure out a way to make money off of that. So the economy's fine because they know he's too stupid to fuck with it and they won't let him. Sort of like the fucking little kid that wanders in at Thanksgiving and tries to put his hands in the goddamn cranberry sauce. You just slap him and say, go play with your fucking jacks. So, all these problems with the United States of America, but now we've come down to love it or leave it. And you're an asshole if you don't stand up and you know, for the national anthem. They want required patriotism in North Korea, and it worked really well for them in fucking Nazi Germany, too. Required patriotism, the state above all else. Patriotism is just like respect. It should be earned, and you should be proud of your country because it's doing great things and it's leading the world. We are doing neither. We're not doing any great things, and you think that fucking lunatic, that goddamn mentally unstable, childlike, fucking petulant, obnoxious, arrogant, fumble-mouthed, illiterate moron that is sitting in the White House is leading the world. He's not even on their Christmas card list. Everybody's going to ignore him. What he says makes no difference. He's going to be sitting alone like the fucking kid at recess that was caught jacking off in fucking study hall. They don't want anything to do with him because he's a fucking buffoon. So now he has made this about those darn football players, those sons of bitches. They ought to be fired. No, motherfucker, you ought to be fired. You should have never been hired in the first place. And I know that there are very fine people that voted for Donald Trump, and they're the ones that now realize they've been had. Because if you ain't figured it out by now, you're not a very fine person. You're a dumb, stupid fuck. If you haven't figured out by now that you got had, if you voted for Donald Trump. Now he's ruined football for everybody. Now everybody can't enjoy and I don't even like football, but I'm going to go buy a football fucking game ticket to support the goddamn football. I said it on Twitter. Every professional athlete at the playing of the national anthem should squat down, drop their pants, and take a shit on an 8x10 of Donald Trump until he's impeached. Now that would be a fucking protest. I'd like to see that. I'd like football if they did that. He's made people dislike the national anthem because they have to protest the way that their country is being run and the insult, the personal insult that they take it. That a fucking goof like this is in charge of the United States. It's like all the whistleblowers and the leakers. They're not leaking because they're unpatriotic. They're leaking because they're patriotic. Because they are, at their core, at their humanity, they are insulted. They are indignant that this fucking goof and his goddamn crooked administration and his fucking Clampett family fucking brand of hillbillies have invaded the government and are doing so much damage to something that affects so many people. So he's ruined football enjoyment for everybody. He's made people dislike the national anthem. He's a mentally unstable fucking insomniac senior citizen. So he tweets on the shitter every morning, and he's calling another unstable world leader with nuclear weapons names on fucking Twitter like a 12-year-old girl who's just figured out how to put the batteries in her first fucking vibrator. Puerto Rico is drowning. He don't give a fuck because it doesn't affect him. And they're carrying people out of the Capitol who are armless and legless and have been motivated to get there. Imagine how much trouble it is to go to the fucking shitter when you have no arms and no legs. But these people were so indignant by what this fucking buffoon is trying to do to their health care that will keep them alive that they went to the Capitol crowded the hallway, overflowed the place, and then the order was given to carry him out because it's making the Republicans look bad that are trying to kill all these people. And the last thing we want to do is make a Republican look bad because they do enough good job of it enough by making themselves look bad. Fuck! I thought this was funny when I got started, Brian, but the more I think about it, anybody that is mad at the football players or anybody else for protesting anything to do with this country, as long as it's led by that no good piece of shit, I think should get a fucking medal. I think everybody ought to be protesting. Everybody ought to be leaking, because everybody ought to be as indignant and as ashamed as I am and as all these other people are that are protesting that we've got this fucking guy in our life, and our lives are in his hands. I wouldn't trust, well, I can't say I wouldn't trust him to walk my dog because Harley's the most precious thing in the world to me. I would not trust Donald Trump to walk across the street and get my Wendy's order right, or to come back with my money. So I think all these people should get a fucking medal. Sit down, turn your backs on the National Anthem as long as it's got anything to do with Donald fucking Trump. He doesn't deserve the office of president. He disgraces the office of president. So we ought to shit on him like he's shitting on us, and shitting on the office of president, and shitting on the goddamn viewpoint and the image of the United States of America around the world by just being a goddamn goof in charge of shit he doesn't understand. So any protest to me that doesn't involve violence or fucking illegality is fucking more than fine with me. You gotta earn respect, you gotta earn pride in your country, and right now there's no way that we can be proud of this fucking country until we eliminate the disease that has taken over it, and until we run the goddamn Republicans out of town on a rail. What's it going to take? Or is anybody actually out there going to vote for another Republican after this, after they have proven time and again that they will put any emotionally, mentally unstable fraud and con man, or any reprehensible crook of any nature, unprepared, unqualified, incapable, they will put anybody in office as long as they can push their shit through. They're the ones that ought to be stood up and shot at sunrise for fucking treason, not the football players that are taking a knee respectfully, but visually, and protesting what they believe to be a fucked up bunch of shit. And yes, the cops do shoot a lot of black people that shouldn't get shot because they're unarmed. Imagine that. We've revealed something. This was a fucking secret. No, you ought to be glad, all the cops ought to be glad that all those football players are down on a knee on the football field instead of waiting to get even. We got a lot of shit we need to straighten up around here. So fuck you, Donald Trump. I think the football players ought to goddamn take a knee around the fucking White House and not let you out until you agree to quit.